Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions are for Mr. Moody. Given your extensive work on taxation, my questions are about different groups of Canadians and the impact of the tax on them. So the Parliamentary Budget Officer reported that a single senior earning roughly $27,000 will only save about $50 in 2025-2026 from this tax cut. Do you agree with that?
Well, from a high level, yes, because most low income earners, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of low income earners do not pay any tax. And so at $27,000, they're paying a little bit of tax, but not a lot. So high level, yes.
And do you believe that the $50, which works roughly to $1 a week, will have a material impact on a senior citizen that's struggling with affordability?
Absolutely not. And I alluded to that in my opening remarks. Even if you're generous at $400, which is the maximum amount, that's immaterial to the average Canadian, or to most Canadians, frankly.
And a single parent now, different group, earning roughly $50,000 is expected to save about $140 from the tax cut. Do you agree with that?
From a high level, yes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yes, that sounds roughly right.
And the $140 a year works roughly to $3 a week. Do you think that this would change the life circumstances of that single parent because of this income tax cut?
No, obviously not. And that's why I think it's, this is, good politics, but poor policy.
Thank you. A senior couple now with an income of roughly $63,000 would then save $150 from the tax cut, which is again roughly $3 a week. On the same line, do you think that this amount will meaningfully ease the financial pressures for the senior couple?
No, obviously not.
And so a family of four now, who we learned spends roughly $17,000 in groceries, which is about $100 more than last year, would save maybe $360 because of this income tax cut. Do you believe that they would be better off because of the income tax cut?
Well, by $360, which is not material.
Offsetting the $800 that they spent more over last year, that would be that they're actually out $440.
And other inflationary measures as well, right?
That's right. So given that this is the signature legislation that the government is putting forward, and we talked about seniors not benefiting meaningfully, single parents, potentially students, unemployed people, what do you think would really be the benefit of this key Liberal affordability plan?
Nothing. Frankly, it's an embarrassment. If this is their key signature tax policy, it's embarrassing to Canada, and it should be embarrassment to anybody that understands tax, which unfortunately not many do.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome back to the Finance Committee, Mr. Moody. In your opening remarks, you talked just a little bit about the need for things like tax simplification and the need for real, true affordability measures. I presume you might have been referring to we need to do something about productivity in this country. We've seen over the last 10 years a decline in per capita GDP, wherein Canadians are actually becoming poorer under this government. And in response to Ms. Cabina's questions, you laid out the insufficiency of C4 as an affordability measure. Can you comment further on some of these items that you touched on in your opening statement?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Yes. Where I was going with my final comments was, the need for tax reform that ultimately looks at a whole bunch of tax measures which includes material tax reduction, both at, all the way through the system. Canadians pay far too much in tax. I've written about that many, many times. And I'll debate anybody that wants to challenge me on that. And so, and that to me is real affordability measures. The Fraser Institute, for example, does its yearly study of how much tax is paid, not just income tax, but all levels of tax, as a measure of total income. And it's an interesting review. And yes, you can debate the methodologies and the conclusions, but tax is far, far too high. And my conclusion is that by reducing those those tax loads, that's real affordability measures.
Okay. You also talked in your opening statement about financial literacy, and that it is challenged by the method by which this government goes about tax changes. You testified at the Finance Committee late in the previous Parliament about the capital gains tax, which came to mind when you spoke of the chaos over introducing measures, treating them like they are as if they had royal assent, or at least leaving Canadians forced to plan as if these changes have royal assent. In that example, they abandoned that poor policy even before Parliament was dissolved. Can you comment on a little bit more on how to properly table and deal with tax measures and communicate them?
Yeah, happy to. I wrote a recent article in the Financial Post about that about 2 months ago, and it's interesting what history has to history serves very good lessons. And in 1985, Finance Minister Michael Wilson introduced a really good paper, which I hyperlinked in the article for anybody that wants to take a look at it, about this very issue, about how to deal with provisional tax administration, because there is a need for it. But the problem is that right now it's being used for political purposes, like I mentioned in my opening remarks, and in inappropriate things like capital gains administration when it was very political hot potato. And so I think we should follow the example set out in 1985. We should have statutory provisions that clearly lay out how we should do that. And there's good examples in the UK to follow on that. So I think we've got a lot of work as a country to do that, Mr. Kelly.
Okay, thank you.
I've got very much, Chair. And thank you to all our witnesses for being here with us today on Bill C-4. I said earlier, first off, it is a bill that deals with 3 commitments made by the Conservative Party, refunding the GST on housing, taking off the fuel charge. We wanted to go further, but it wasn't in the right direction. The problem was that we were talking about dollar for dollar, in that for each dollar spent on something new, there had to be a dollar saved. And we wanted to have a budget, but that just didn't happen. My question is for Mr. Moody. You're an accountant and you write about fiscal measures, tax measures. I'd like to hear you on what you think about what was said by the PBO, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, when he said the greatest concern is the gap in terms of the debt to GDP ratio. It's the first time that we've seen such a sharp increase. It is unsustainable in his view. And he said everybody should be concerned. I'm concerned. Are you concerned?
Well, thank you. Yes, I am concerned, obviously. I concern myself with taxation measures and look at increasing debt costs and the increased spending. And so, from my expertise, I often wonder how it's going to be paid for, given taxation policy measures. But overall, just putting on my layman's economic hat, of course I'm concerned. It's when you have that kind of strong and blunt language, I think every Canadian should take notice.